Hello and welcome to another episode of the e-commerce coffee break. A lot of online merchants just want to sell their products, and then all of a sudden they have to deal with a lot of technical things. So there's third-party cookies, there's tracking, there's Google Analytics, and then all of a sudden the whole business becomes very technical, and most of them at some point will be overwhelmed. Now, in the last couple of months, a lot of things have happened, specifically when it comes to tracking and cookies that go away and all of these things. And we want to dive a little bit deeper into this topic today. So therefore, guest on the show today is Edward Upton. He's the founder and technical lead at Littledata.io. And we talk about how to use server-side tracking on e-commerce sites. Edward founded Littledata to make it ridiculously easy to connect sales, marketing, and customer data. He started Littledata after experiencing firsthand the pain of getting accurate e-commerce data as an advisor for Made.com and GD Williams Group. Before that, he founded Teachable.net, a marketplace for teachers to share digital education resources. Top DTC brands around the world trust Littledata's smart connection for accurate e-commerce analysis. So we will dive into that in a moment. Edward also graduated in psychology and of the Magdalene College, Oxford. And after that, he worked at Accenture and the UK Government Digital Service. So let's dive into it and say hello to Edward. Edward, how are you today?
Hi there, great. Good morning.
Edward, what got you from psychology into e-commerce tracking? I think that's a long way.
Yeah, it's quite a meandering river. So I graduated in psychology. I think I knew it was sort of the brain science end of psychology, but I knew that I didn't want to be a scientist, but I've always been fascinated by business and I guess the intersection of where business will meet psychology, how do you affect people's behavior, influence people, etc. And I started my career at big corporate. Really, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think on those who of us who are founders kind of know that that's your natural home. You might do other things to train up, but I think I always knew that I wanted to start a business myself, and started, as you say, my first business in my 20s, which was in ed tech. Grew that to a certain scale, and then really found that there was selling to schools is a very tough market. So I pivoted, and what I learned with that first business was a lot about analytics. We had a product, but I realized as basically the product manager as well as the founder, I needed to track what was happening, who was using it. And I started getting deep into Google Analytics and tracking and Google Tag Manager. Then, as you say, did that as a consultant for a few bigger brands, and realized there was an opportunity to take what I was doing as a consultant and really productize it for a lot of mid-sized and larger brands that want to get all the best data about their customer journey, but they don't have either the in-house expertise to track that manually, or the ability to pay for some of the very expensive, let's say, full suite, vertically integrated analytics tools out there. So our basic premise is, look, that Google has provided and still provides an excellent tool in Google Analytics. It's just that there's increasing difficulty of how you actually set that up. As you say, respecting on the one hand sort of user privacy regulations and concerns, and on the other hand, actually getting from the brand's perspective and a complete picture of how your marketing is working and driving sales.
Okay, so Littledata.io, and I love the name because it sort of sums up what we're talking about, goes into the server-side tracking side of things. Yeah. Now, tell me, what's the difference between what has happened in the past with third-party cookies and all the tracking that has happened in the past, and what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah, sure. So if we roll back sort of 5 years, there was a very standard way of all these big advertising platforms tracking what was how their ads were working on a third-party website, and they'd drop a third-party cookie, which was kind of neither authorized necessarily by the site, the domain that the user was on, or the user themselves. But also, actually, Google Analytics use first-party cookies to just track. So first-party means set by the brand or the brand's website on behalf of the user to say, look, this person is the same person who's viewing a page the next time. And so the way that web analytics has worked for the last 15 years is that you visit a page, there's a tracking script that loads on that page. the tracking script interacts with a cookie, and the cookie says, yeah, this is an anonymous person. We don't, it doesn't say that your name's Edward Upton. It just says you're number 1234. And then every time you visit on that same browser, we know that, you're the same person, and we can link all those page views together. And then that ping is sent to Google servers and aggregated into a customer journey, into anonymous analytics. But then what happened a couple of years ago is obviously there's a big clampdown on third-party cookies. I mean, I think totally understandably that I don't want to be tracked by some third party I've never consented to and never understood. But I think I would say the problem is the baby's now getting thrown out with the bathwater. That what Apple particularly started doing and Google's increasingly doing with Google Chrome is not blocking just third-party cookies, but also first-party cookies. So saying, look, Google Analytics, you can set this cookie, but we'll wipe it. So basically, it's much harder now to stitch together all those touch points. And then, if that's not bad enough, a whole load of kind of ad blockers are even blocking the pings to Google server. So if you're relying on what was called client-side tracking, your reporting is increasingly broken in two ways. First of all, you can't link all the touch points together to understand what marketing or emails or ads or whatever brought them to buy. But also, you're just missing maybe 20% of your user behavior because it's being blocked. So Littledata kind of 5 years ago pioneered what we call server-side tracking. And what this means is that rather than having to add any scripts, I mean, we do have a script to track the landing pages, obviously, but from the add to cart onwards, we can just infer what the user did by listening into what's happening on the e-commerce platform. And that brings a few benefits. I mean, first of all, it's totally robust. You're not, anything that's happening in the browser, ad blocking, cookie blocking, users opting out, it doesn't affect the tracking. Secondly, it's more secure, so you don't have to worry about anyone intercepting that user data. But thirdly, it's just much richer and more reliable. You're going to, every time an order comes through, you'll get 100% of those orders on Google Analytics. So what a lot of brands come to us saying is, look, I don't know what to trust. In my Shopify store, I see I made $1,000 this week, but in Google Analytics, it tells me there's only $800. So which one is true, right? And the reality is generally that brands trust the e-commerce platform, Shopify, because that is basically their source of truth. That's where the payments are actually being made, and that's right. And so Littledata's product just basically helps make sure that your analytics tool, Google Analytics or another tool, matches what you see in Shopify.
Okay, yeah, very good explanation. I was actually about to ask you why are the numbers in Shopify different than in Google Analytics, and I think you just told us why that is. Now, when it comes to the attribution, you said a lot of things have been taken away from Facebook, from Apple, and so on and so forth. What's the best way to assign the perfect marketing attribution to your business so that you really know where is my customer, my order coming from?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Let me answer in a couple of ways. So, first of all, one of the reasons we have always been big boosters for Google Analytics is we think it allows you to compare apples with apples across your different channels. So each individual marketing platform, whether it's Facebook ads or email marketing platform or an affiliate marketing tool, they all are very greedy in what they claim the sales driven by them. But by greedy, I don't mean completely fake. I just mean that if the customer touched one of those channels and then bought something, they'll say, "Hey, customer, Facebook ad says, yeah, hey, that Facebook ad drove that sale." But I think everyone understands that most e-commerce journeys are actually a number of touch points. Depending on the value of the product, there's going to be multiple touch points before people decide to buy. So really, you need to understand not just the last click that brought them there, but the journey, the multi-channel attribution of that sale. So that's the first order answer, is that we recommend that people can try and track not just in one isolated channel, but track the channel side by side. But But the second point of that thing is that there's different attribution models you can use so again, there's no right answer, but typically in Google Analytics and in most of the tools, it's a last click attribution. So whatever was the last known, I would say last non-direct click to be accurate, whatever was the last known sort of source of that visit, whether it be a click on an ad or a click on an email link or that is attributed to the sale. Now, one of the reasons I'm really excited about Google Analytics 4 is Google's opened up a feature which they've had for their enterprise customers, their 360 customers for a few years, but they've opened up to everyone what they call data-driven attribution. And what this means is basically using Google's clever algorithms, clever machine learning, to sift through all of your customer interactions and figure out, on average, which of them are value adding. And by value adding, I mean, if the user hadn't interacted with that platform, will they still have bought? Because a huge amount of brands, in my opinion, waste money advertising to people who would already have purchased. And this is the dirty secret with sort of retargeting and Facebook and stuff. It's like, okay, great. Yes, some of the time it is getting them over the line, and that advertising is useful because it just reminds a customer that maybe had kind of abandoned to come back. But some of the time, you know, they were already going to purchase. So your click is sort of wasted in a way. And I think that's what data-driven attribution tries to solve, is that very age-old problem of whether this is actually, if you hadn't done that thing, the user still would have bought.
Okay, that will definitely help you in assigning your marketing budgets and then also getting the feeling what's the user journey at the end of the day, and not only focus on one touch point. Now, how can you imagine to work with Littledata? Do I do not use Google Analytics or Shopify reports anymore, or how does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, Littledata is a connector for Shopify and Ecommerce with Google Analytics. So let's get the one I'm trying to point out wrong. And we also have connectors for Facebook ads because there is a reason to build audience and stuff that you want the same data points in there. And also for segment, if people want to send it to other analytics tools. But so with Google Analytics, what we're recommending is look, Shopify Analytics, if you just want to look at overall like sales volumes and products sold, is good, but it really doesn't give you any, particularly from a marketing analytics point of view, it doesn't give you any ability to drill into which segments, which campaigns, which sort of the customer journey, really. So we feel like for any ambitious growth brand, Google Analytics should be a much better choice for making those sort of decisions from. And more importantly, or equally importantly, it's tightly integrated with Google Ads. So your ability to run clever campaigns in Google Ads, particularly ones that are driven based on conversions, so you know, trying to target cost per acquisition rather than cost per click, those are much better powered via Google Analytics. So you send the data from Shopify to Google Analytics, and then you can share those audiences or share those conversion goals, those purchases with Google Ads. And again, previously Google Ads had their own sort of reporting conversion tracking thing, but increasingly Google's strategy is just send it to Google Analytics and then share that data with other Google Marketing Suite.
No, understood. Now, a lot of merchants might have concerns when they say, okay, now the tracking is on my side, server-side tracking. And that brings them into the question is like, how secure is the data? Data security policies and whatsoever. Specifically, as Apple said, we're taking them away because we want to make sure that the customer data is secure, which I think Apple is coming up with their own ad platform soon. And that's the main reason, not what they were selling.
Yeah.
But how does it work for Littledata? Does it comply to GDPR and all the other things? And how do you make sure that the data is safe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess a few ways to answer that. So firstly, Littledata is an app that is hosting all that data pipeline for the brand. So they don't need to worry about maintaining that kind of cloud data security. That's our job as data experts, and very happy to sort of, we've got articles about how we secure that with best practice. But I think and I think that is actually really important, because the server-side tracking sounds great, but obviously it involves a lot more engineering effort to make it work. So, I know very few brands that have tried to do that on their own, and most of them have eventually come back to us because they've found it to be technically a lot more complex than they thought. So yeah, we're offering a fully hosted solution, a SaaS product where people just pay a monthly or annual price just for us to manage all of this for them. And part of that management is, as you say, respecting the customer consent on the front end. So, in Europe, the regulation says that you need to ask the customer in a kind of opt-in way, rather than opt-out, that they consent to being tracked. Now, on Shopify, they have a consent API, so a lot of the cookie banners can integrate with Shopify. The problem is, though, that with a lot of other setups, that consent is not passed on to the tracking script, right? So people click, no, I don't want to be tracked, but they're still tracked, which is obviously not GDPR compliant. You're not complying with the customer's right to be ignored or to be not tracked. So yeah, what Littledata offers is an integration with all these sort of cookie consent banners that says, look, if you opt out, then we won't track you. And at the moment that you do opt in, because typically one of the problems is that the user has a landing page, cookie banner comes up, you click allow, but you need to then send that page view, because if you don't send it to the next page view, you've lost all the UTM tags. You don't know what the user there. So yeah, GDPR compliance is important for brands in Europe. We help them do that, and I think that. But I think going back to server-side tracking, from the checkout onwards, the user is effectively opted into being tracked. I mean, my view is that it's simply not possible, if you interact with an e-commerce brand and give them your email and so on, to not be tracked. I mean, that should be part of any brand's. And it needs to be in their privacy policy, but obviously they need to be able to track the user at that point in order to deliver the product. And so from the point at which they identify themselves in the checkout and then complete the order, then whatever consent they do on the front end, we can still share that data with the brand, and the brand's tracking.
Okay, so in other words, with server-side tracking, you actually can follow the customer journey much deeper into the process, as you would have been able to do that in the past. Is that right?
Correct. And where the user has consented to be tracked on the front end, link that to checkout and order back to the kind of behavior, the browsing behavior.
Mm-hmm. So how does the implementation of Littledata work? For instance, you have a Shopify store or a Ecommerce store. How does that work? Yeah,
it's very simple. It's an app that you install on the store. There's a few setup steps. Just authorize permission to add the tracking scripts and to hook into those events coming on Shopify or Ecommerce's servers. And then just some configuration steps to say, where do you want to send the data? And obviously, a few more settings around, exactly how you want to send the data in different formats and so on. But there's with our installation, there's a very simple automatic route where you can just, we pick all the intelligent defaults for you, and then there's a manual route where you can do more of the configuration.
Okay.
And takes about 5 to 10 minutes to set up, and the data starts flowing instantly. So it's not, what we're not doing is pushing a sort of tag management solution where there's a lot of work to sort of plan, implement, test, so on. Because, as I said, it works as a out-of-the-box SaaS product. We know that for any brand installing it, they're going to get exactly the accurate touch points, because all of the, let's say, the sort of data layer behind the scenes is standardized in that platform. And that's the beauty, I guess, of offering what we do, and really, as I said, where we could take all those learnings as a consultant and sort of productize them, we can offer it for a much lower price than someone who is having to manually implement all this, because, as I said, we programmatically know it'll just install and work.
Okay. What kind of expert level do you need to have to then see the results in Google Analytics, or coming from Shopify?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the knowledge you'd need is analytical rather than sort of technical implementation. So I think, obviously, to make use of this, you would need to be able to navigate yourself around Google Analytics, find out how to build reports, build segments, share audiences with Google Ads and other tools. we provide some good sort of how-to videos of how to do that, and we've got some good content on our help center. I mean, yeah, Google Analytics can be a little bit daunting for beginners, but I do recommend that people invest the time in that. So we're saying, look, you definitely don't need to do any data engineering to use this. You don't need to be an expert in GTag or Google Tag Manager, but you do need to upskill or find people that can help you then actually do the higher level task, which is analyzing the resulting data and reading the reports that Google Analytics produces.
As Google is moving from the old Google Analytics to GA4, obviously, what's your take on there? Should people then, if they're already in the process anyway, do the switch over to Littledata, or what would be the best way?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. At the moment, we're recommending that people kind of tag in parallel. So what that means is that you'll track in parallel. So that means we send the same data to Universal Analytics and the same data to Google Analytics 4. And the reason for that is there are lots of changes with the way the reports work and are built and the metrics are driven. And so we want brands to be able to, again, compare like for like with the old and new, not have to worry about maybe the changes because we didn't implement GA4 properly. So I think that's the first advantage of using us in that sort of switchover scenario, is you can be sure, you can really focus on just what are the reporting differences rather than having to worry about whether the setup's different. But obviously I think a lot of, that there is no, there are not many other good solutions for Google Analytics 4 with Shopify. So Shopify doesn't have their own, out the box, what's the right word, connector for Google Analytics 4, and I don't think they're going to launch that anytime soon. And the history of Shopify and Google Analytics is something they've, I would say, reluctantly supported. So I don't expect when it launches next year to be anywhere near fully fledged. So you can quite easily, and there are some other apps on the App Store that will help you just track the page views in Google Analytics 4. I mean, that's a start. But as I said, I think the important thing for any brand is to actually reliably track the add to cart, checkouts, orders, and refunds. So you can get that complete picture. I think just the page views alone are fairly useless. And then the only other option you'd have is to sort of set this up in Google Tag Manager, figure out all the data layer, write some custom scripts for the thank you page. It's hard work, and I would say for most brands, it's still going to miss a lot of the accuracy we can offer.
Yeah, very well. So I see that with merchants exactly that they're struggling to move over. And as you said, in the past, the integration of Google Analytics into Shopify was like so. So Littledata definitely helps you there to make it probably faster, and you get more data and more accurate data. So how's the pricing of Littledata? What can people expect there?
So we offer, we're actually just about to launch this week a free tier. So that's a new thing for us, but we want smaller brands to be able to try this out. And we think this particularly ties in with the push to get brands on Google Analytics 4. So we're offering the product for free for brands doing up to 200 orders a month. And then from 200 orders a month up to 10,000, up to 200 up to 12,000 orders a month. It's our standard plan, which is $99 a month for Google Analytics 4. And then beyond that, we offer plus plans that come with more account management support for onboarding to help you set up some reports in Google Analytics and make sure it's all working, audit, bit of training, and obviously coping with brands who have multi-store setups internationally. So so basic price, standard price is $99 a month with a discount for annual, and for that they'll get absolutely all of the events they could possibly need in Google Analytics. Okay.
Before our coffee break comes to an end, you're doing data for a very long time, and also with the factor from psychology behind there, which I really like. So what would be golden nugget? What would you recommend someone running a store? What should they look into to make it really work?
Yeah, so the one thing I'm always pushing is tracking sort of customer lifetime value. So I think that a lot of brands focus too much on fairly short-termist metrics around just trying to drive people to buy a one-time thing. But obviously, what they need to take into account when they're thinking about what's a real return on investment is what are the kind of channels and campaigns that are bringing me users that stick with me, whether I'm selling on subscription or just, repeat one-off purchases. But also, what are the kind of users that buy more and don't ask for refunds? These are things that will really affect the profitability of your average brand. And so I think, again, just being one of the things that Littledata tries to do is allow you to tie back all of those lifetime of purchases and in fact send lifetime value as a dimension to Gig Analytics to use in reporting. So I think if you can focus on lifetime value, you can really find the tactics that are bringing you valuable users. And in tools like Facebook ads, you can actually retarget those you can tell Facebook to find you more people who like them. So you can say, Facebook, look, here are my top 100 customers, whatever they're doing, whatever their interests are globally, go and advertise to more people like them. And I think that sort of tactic is hugely powerful for growing not just the one-time purchase, but growing a customer base which is truly valuable.
That's a great tip. Where can people find more about Littledata?
So we have a blog, active blog, blog.littledata.io. We have a YouTube channel, quite a lot of hints and tips, looks up on YouTube, and obviously on all the usual social channels.
Cool. I will put them in the show notes. Then you're just one click away and people find you immediately. Cool. Thanks so much for your time. I think that was very insightful in getting an overview of what's happening in the world of tracking, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Klaus. Thanks.
Hey, Klaus here. Before you go, I would like to invite you to become part of the e-commerce merchant pro community to get actionable advice from other Shopify merchants who already have achieved what you are aiming for. Our community is a safe place to actively grow your online retail business with the support of the most amazing and helpful group of e-commerce entrepreneurs behind you. Running a Shopify business is tough. Don't do it alone. Join us now. You will find the link in the show notes. Also, if you think your online store has conversion or marketing issues and you would like to have a fresh set of eyes on your business, then drop me an email at klaus@klauslauter.com and let me know a little bit about your business. It might be beneficial for you to have me look over your store, offers, emails, and ads, and get an unbiased outside perspective and guidance to help you make most of your online business. Thank you as always for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Until next time, and I talk to you soon.